Hello, welcome to News Round, a recap of stories that made headlines during the week. I'm Teniola Oyetayo. The headlines. National Industrial Court orders the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, to return to the classroom. Senate confirms the appointment of Justice Olukayode Ariola as the Chief Justice of Nigeria. President Muhammadu Buhari delivers last speech at the United Nations General Assembly, promises to ensure credible election in 2023. Plus, funeral of Queen Elizabeth II takes place in Westminster Abbey, attended by heads of state and monarchs from around the world. That's News Round in view. We begin News Round with the decision by the National Industrial Court ordering the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, to call off its ongoing nationwide strike, pending the determination of the suit filed against it by the federal government. Given the ruling, Justice Polycarp Haman invoked Section 18 of the Trade Dispute Act, stating that the act empowers the court to terminate any strike action when national interest is at stake.
It's a partially full courtroom as the National Industrial Court gives a verdict on the interlocutory injunction filed by the federal government against the Academic Staff Union of Universities over their 7-month industrial action. The lecturers are demanding for improved funding for universities, a review of salaries for lecturers, among other issues. After 3 adjournments, Justice Polycarp Haman orders the union to suspend the strike pending the determination of the substantive suit. Justice Haman held that the industrial action is detrimental to public university students who cannot afford to attend private tertiary institutions. He also agrees with the federal government that Nigerian students have fundamental rights to education and should not be deprived of their right because of the strike. He says the Trade Dispute Act mandates workers not to embark on strike once an issue has been referred to the industrial court. The judge also refused to fine the federal government as demanded by ASUU.
The ruling by the Honorable Court is very consistent with rule of law. It's also a recognition of the fundamental role that education plays in development, in national development, in economic development. And also, it recognizes the fact that without education, there will be no rule of law. I thank the judiciary for saving educational development. What has happened is that the past 7 months, educational development has been halted, particularly in public universities in Nigeria, which ought not to be.
The judgment has come. It has come. The court has ruled that members of ASUU are restrained from continuing the strike action, and that they should return back to the classrooms pending the determination of the substantive suit. As per the next action, there are quite a number of options open to the union. We will study the ruling with the legal team, and then we will adopt the most appropriate option.
Justice Polycarp Haman thereafter ordered that the case file be returned to the president of the court for reassignment to another judge for hearing of the substantive matter.
Meanwhile, the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, has filed an appeal before the Court of Appeal, Abuja, challenging the ruling of Justice Haman of the National Industrial Court, which ordered the lecturers to call off their 7-month-old strike and return to the classroom. Counsel representing ASUU, Mr. Femi Falana, based their appeal on 14 grounds and 2 motions of reliefs, seeking the leave to file the appeal pursuant to Section 243 of the Constitution that requires the party to appeal the judgment or ruling of the National Industrial Court. They're also seeking a stay of execution of the orders of the court pending the hearing and determination of the appeal. The application was supported by an affidavit which was deposed to by Mr. Samuel Ame, a research assistant in the office of Falano and Falanos Chambers. He states that the said ruling affects the fundamental and other legal rights of ASUU and its members. He further deposed that the Industrial Court made the order without jurisdiction as the said referral was incompetent. It was opposed further that ASUU has a very strong case, an appeal which the court ought to decide one way or the other. Well, still on ASUU strike, the Minister of Labour and Employment, Dr. Chris Ngige, is asking the lecturers to obey the National Industrial Court ruling and call off their ongoing nationwide strike while negotiation continues. While fielding questions from journalists in New York, Dr. Ngige states that the strike is detrimental to public university students who cannot afford to attend private tertiary institutions.
The maxim in law is that once there is a court judgment or ruling or order, you must first obey, and then you can apply for an appeal if you so desire, or apply for a stay if you so desire. Stay, that's a stay of execution. So the maxim in law, jurisprudence and everything about the law is that you obey a court's ruling, judgment or order, no matter how bad. The qualifying thing is that no matter how bad and no matter how you disagree with it, you first obey. Like the military people say, obey before complain. So we expect them to get back to the classroom. But that doesn't foreclose negotiations. The negotiations will be on. As a matter of fact, it will be on official and unofficially. For example, the House of Representatives have invited us to come and brief them. I will honor the invitation and go and brief them on the situation of things. And together, they are stakeholders. You know, he had the president say to the pro-chancellors who came to see him, the committee of pro-chancellors, that he would do consultation as per the two requests they made to him. Requests on putting an icing on the cake on the government offer to ASUU members, and the issue of a resettlement fund to cushion the effect of the no work, no pay situation they found themselves in.
If there's no country, there will be no elections. These are the words of former President Goodluck Jonathan, who believes that those contesting in the 2023 general elections have the biggest stake in protecting Nigeria from destruction. He stated this at the 2022 peace conference organized by the Goodluck Jonathan Foundation in Abuja, where he also raised concern over the threats posed by hate speech and propaganda to Nigeria's democracy. Also at the event, former head of State Abdulsalami Abubakar and other speakers called on politicians to desist from amplifying divisive tendencies ahead of the elections next year.
Nigeria's 2023 general elections takes the center stage at this peace conference organized by the Goodluck Jonathan Foundation in Abuja. In attendance are the former President Goodluck Jonathan and his wife, Dame Patience Jonathan, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, Governor Bala Mohammed of Bauchi State, former President of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, Mr. Mohammed Ibn Chambers, founder of the Kuka Center, Bishop Matthew Kuka, politicians and diplomats who have converged to interrogate the role of elections in a multi-ethnic context like Nigeria. In a recorded message to the gathering, General Abdul Salami Abubakar, who is the chairman of the National Peace Committee, emphasizes the need for patriotism. As the secretary to the government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa advocates the re-engineering of political parties.
I'm calling all politicians, political parties, security agencies, election management body, and all stakeholders to ensure that Nigeria is placed first above regional and sectional claims. Nigeria is the only country we have. We must work together to secure it.
We will need to address the formation of our parties, the institutionalization of our parties, the strengthening of democratic ethos in our party. Because these are the platforms that produce the people that will occupy the offices. So if they are faulty in their nature, obviously the conduct of the people that will occupy those offices will equally be faulty.
However, the neutrality of institutions involved in the conduct of elections is key, as explained by the former president of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, Mr. Mohammed Ibn Chambers.
It is important that the electoral management body, the judiciary, police, and other executive arm institutions operate in a neutral and professional manner, and not only operate as such, but are seen to do so.
For former President Goodluck Jonathan, those contesting in the 2023 general elections have the biggest stake of ensuring that the country's peace is protected.
Both those who want to be presidents and governors or hold other offices, and their supporters should first know that we need to have a nation before whoever you are supporting can emerge as a governor or a president. We must discourage this issue of hate speech, this propaganda that is going on. Because before this time, we were always afraid of the gun as a threat to democracy. But the biggest threat to democracy now that we have is the issue of propaganda, fake news, and hate speech. And anybody that's an advocate of this, a vanguard of this, then you are a threat to democracy just like the gun.
A lot has been discussed with regards to the 2023 general elections, but the key question participants here have raised is whether the 2023 general election will be a defining moment for Nigeria's progress and unity as a country, or a dividing moment. Empress Simon, Channels Television News.
Still on electoral matters, as part of efforts to deepen the nation's democracy, a former Senate President, Senator Pius Anyim, is advocating a people-centered government. The former Secretary to the Government of the Federation says Nigerians must rise to the occasion by electing leaders devoid of regional sentiments. Senator Anyim, who was speaking at a forum organized by the Kogi State chapter of the People's Democratic Party in Abuja, appealed to Nigerians to work towards building a country based on equity, equality, and justice for all.
Strengthening party structure ahead of the 2023 general elections is the focus of this special retreat organized by the Kogi State chapter of the People's Democratic Party. The Kogi State chairman of the party vows to lead the party to victory in 2023.
I want all of you at all levels to count on the state ESCO and these great stakeholders that we shall leave no stone untouched to make sure victory comes our way. Because by the special grace of God, PDP is going to empower in Kogi State.
In his presentation, a former Senate president believes it's time for a people-oriented government which will be based on equity, equality, and justice.
Returning power to the people is the only way we can deepen democracy, guarantee peace and unity, and facilitate development in our country. This topic, therefore, should be our collective goal as a people, as a political party, and as a country.
For the former governors of Kogi and Kaduna states, reclaiming political power requires unity of purpose.
Now, if we want to win the next election, we must fight for it. hope we understand that power is not going to be handed over to us, particularly in Kogi State. We have to come together, we have to fight and take the power.
How you get the structures in place determines their efficiency. The Senate President mentioned the history of the G34. Of course, the party that sprung up at the inception was a very powerful party. The structures were powerful because they came to be not by powers or influence of one man, but by a collection of men and women desirous of putting a powerful party that could win elections.
The meeting then moves into a technical session where the officials are hoping to come up with strategies to reclaim power in Kogi State and the presidency in 2023.
When News Round returns in just a moment, Senate confirms Justice Kayode Oriwola as Chief Justice of Nigeria. Please stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. To the National Assembly now, where the Senate has confirmed Justice Kayode Oriwola as Chief Justice of Nigeria. Before his confirmation, Justice Oriwola raised concerns about welfare of judicial officers, asking for a review of their entitlements. He also appealed to the National Assembly to amend the Constitution to allow some cases to stop at the Court of Appeal in order not to overburden Supreme Court justices.
The acting Chief Justice is received into the Senate chamber as the lawmakers suspend their rules to admit him. The senators in the Committee of the Whole grilled Justice Oriwola, who replaces Justice Ibrahim Mohammed, who resigned his appointment on health grounds.
The first time, not only were they seen, indeed they were heard by way of a joint correspondence. I hate to use the word petition, but a joint correspondence that was endorsed by pretty much every member of the court. My Lord, I'd like for you to speak on your vision and your plan for repositioning of the Nigerian judiciary.
My Lord, I'm happy that you have identified as your core vision issues of reform in our administration of justice, particularly the issues of our rules and procedure of practice. Can your Lordship explain in brief how you hope to achieve this, given the fact that a number of your predecessors had also attempted to deal with these issues?
The CJN then responds to some of the queries of the lawmakers.
Justice delayed is justice denied. But you can be sure that even though the wheel of justice may be sluggish, may move sluggishly, but it's only slow, not sluggish. But you can be sure that it is steady. Because if you rush it, you will end up denying justice. And of course, when justice is denied, you may not feel it until you are denied of justice.
After several back and forths, the lawmakers ask him to take a bow and go.
Distinguished colleagues, please. Oh dear.
The Senate then moves to confirm his nomination.
Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Honorable Justice Olukayode Oriwola for appointment as the Chief Justice of Nigeria? Those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you very much. The nomination of Honorable Justice Olukayode Oriwola is hereby confirmed as the Chief Justice of Nigeria.
Justice Oriwola was born on the 22nd of August 1958 and began his career at the Oyo State High Court. He was elevated to the nation's apex court in November of 2011. Dele Omoyeni, Channels Television News.
And outside the shores of the country, the president has delivered his speech before the United Nations General Assembly, his last as Nigeria's president, presenting the nation's statement as the first African speaker on the second day of the debates at the 77th session of the Assembly. President Muhammadu Buhari promised to enthrone a process of free, fair, transparent and credible election in 2023.
On the second day of the 77th session of the United Nations General Assembly debates, it is a turn of President Muhammadu Buhari, who addresses the diplomatic community as the first speaker and his last as president.
In confronting these challenges,
he starts by going down memory lane to the time when he first served as military head of state in 1984 and makes a pledge to ensure a successful and credible transition of power in 2023.
We now are preparing for general elections in Nigeria next February. At the 78th UNGA, there will be a new face at this podium speaking for Nigeria. Ours is a vast country, strengthened by its diversity and its common values of hard work, enduring faith, and a sense of community. We have invested heavily to strengthen our framework for free and fair elections. As president, I have set the goal that one of the enduring legacies I would like to leave is to entrench a process of free, fair, and transparent, credible election through which Nigerians elect their choice.
On the issues of discourse at the session, the president calls for constructive engagements to address crucial issues such as the war in Ukraine, climate change, debt service suspension, non-proliferation of weapons, and a nuclear-free world.
The danger of escalation of the war in Ukraine further justifies Nigeria's resolute calls for a nuclear-free world and a universal arms trade treaty, which are also necessary measures to prevent global human disasters. In this regard, we must find quick means to reach consensus on the nuclear non-proliferation treaty with related commitments by nuclear weapon states.
He reiterates his request during the 76th session, calling for an outright cancellation of debt for developing countries facing severe liquidity challenges. His speech resonates among members of the delegation.
For me, I see a man that is truly committed, to ensuring that democracy lives, thrives, and is able to hand over to a democratically elected government come next year.
Security Council reform is imperative. Reform of IMF and other institutions are imperative. So the right notes at the right time and a final reflection that although the world is becoming more complex, the challenges are many, but he ended up on a note of hope, not only for Nigeria, for Africa, but the entire world.
The president has also joined other member states in the call for a reform of the UN Security Council and other UN agencies, underscoring that this change is long overdue. Only hours ago, presidents of Brazil and Senegal opened the ceremony with this fundamental appeal, which they say is critical to reasserting the influence of the United Nations going forward. From Manhattan, here in New York, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
And finally, on News Round this week, world leaders joined the royal family, Britain's royal family and its people and indeed the world for the state funeral of Queen Elizabeth II, which held in London, marking the end of 10 days of national mourning.
We will meet again.
Hundreds of dignitaries and leaders from the UK and around the world at Westminster Abbey attending the late Queen's funeral. The Dean of Westminster, David Hoyle, leads the funeral service. The Prime Minister of Britain, Liz Truss, takes the reading from the scriptures.
Ye believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there ye may be also. And whither I go ye know, and the way ye know. Thomas saith unto him, Lord, we know not whither thou goest, and how can we know the way?
And the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, gives the commendation, a prayer which entrusts the soul of the deceased to God.
The pattern for many leaders is to be exalted in life and forgotten after death. The pattern for all who serve God, famous or obscure, respected or ignored, is that death is the door to glory. Her late Majesty famously declared on a 21st birthday broadcast that her whole life would be dedicated to serving the nation and Commonwealth. Rarely has such a promise been so well kept. Few leaders receive the outpouring of love that we have seen.
As the service progresses, gentle sounds of hymns well sung fill the room and seep through the glass windows of the Abbey. While the congregation inside listened to the addresses and prayers for the Queen, the Royal Navy sailors who pulled the state carriage bearing her coffin perform outside the Great West Door, ready to take her onwards back through Parliament Square and up Whitehall and the Mall.
And that's News Round this week. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Teniola Oyetayo.